Hey, welcome into a Thursday edition of the Husker247 Daily. It's still the bye week. I'm Michael Brunts, Brian Christopherson over there. Brian, how's your bye going? I haven't actually asked. You doing okay?
Sturdy buy. Yeah, it's been a good buy. Haven't got a lot done around the house like might be expected of me, but maybe today's the day that changes. We'll see.
Nice. You got a lot of leaves waiting for me this weekend, so a lot of grass time with some little bit football on in the background. Kind of an interesting. Let's get into it. We were kind of talking and back and forth a little bit before we started here. Position groups, the next couple months are going to be interesting, not only for how this season finishes up, but also what next year ultimately looks like with the portal and who Nebraska adds. Give me a position group that you are very excited, curious, questioning what the next couple months are going to look like for a particular group. I've got an answer. I don't think we're going to double up, but give me one where your head's at.
Okay. I will say offensive line. I think the O line's interesting in the respect that, if you think about the lay of the land with like the top 8 in the rotation this year, some of those guys suffered season-ending injuries. Some of them are on their last year of eligibility. Obviously, you appreciate a guy like Turner Corcoran right now doing what he's doing at right tackle when his body's been through a lot. So that there's that part of the story. Like, how does a guy like that finish off his Husker career? But then you go to the other side, the left end of the bookshelf, and Elijah Pritchett, I think, has come on well. But there was always sort of this thought like, oh, is he just going to, it's either going to go really well or really bad, sort of like that seemed to be like the thinking. And like he could be a 1-year guy, because he could maybe go to the league and all that stuff. Well, I don't know for sure. He still has another year of eligibility, and the way he's developing, that would be a nice piece to have next year if that works out. But seeing how that kind of comes together, and then just all those young guys that we've heard about sort of in the background, like who steps up like in December and bowl practices, and maybe can someone even emerge in the bowl game as getting some snaps? Like there's these Grant Bricks, Preston Tamua. Last night, Donovan Raiola was listing off some other of the younger guys. Jason Machachok's one we've always been interested in. Jake Peters. There's a list of like 7 or 8 guys there. And so what they think of that group sort of leaving this season and what it means for their portal ambitions going forward is going to be really interesting to me.
Do you anticipate that bowl practices for that kind of second group is going to be like fine tooth comb trying to figure out who the heck can help you? Because it feels like we've been not stuck in neutral, but like you've had this group of veteran linemen that have carried you for so long. You've been kind of stacking young guys behind them, but the young guys haven't really broken through to this point. I mean, with some of those like second, third year offensive linemen in the program, you got to kind of start wondering, is it their time or how do you kind of approach things? Do you think
Yeah.
Nebraska
Yeah,
approaches things?
that's exactly it. You answered it better than I answered the question. I mean, that's it. Like who's ready to really help you next season, and can they get a feel for that in December? Obviously not completely, but at least some clues there. And then, last year during the bowl practices, remember Dana Olgerson was really blunt. He's like, we need a couple linemen. Like he just flat out said it in that one press conference. And obviously Nebraska went after even more than they ended up getting, but they brought in Pritchett and they brought in Spindler. That's why I think it'd be huge to, have Pritchett for one more year. Spindler's gone. Latovsky is gone. Let's see. Prohaska is done. Corcoran's done. So I mean, there's a lot of guys who have played a lot of college football snaps that you've sort of counted on this year that aren't part of the equation next year. So it is definitely a transition period for that group. That can be exciting. I think these are recruits we were really pumped up about around here when they signed with Nebraska, and some of them now will be in their 3rd/4th years. And so you're kind of hoping they're to that point where it's go time. But it's going to be it is going to be different, sort of like it was with the D line this last year, Bruns, where there was that shift. Like you knew things a certain way for like 3 years, and then sort of the names and faces changed this season, and we had to get used to it. There's a little bit of that on the O line next season, although the one staple, which is a good one to have, is Justin Evans still has another year at center.
Yeah, that's big, and he's probably playing at a level that I don't know gets really appreciated. Kind of given all the just moving pieces that have been around him this year. I mean, I think he's played really well this year.
What do you got?
Linebacker. It's
Okay.
linebacker for me. Kind of the same thing. I mean, your top end guys right now at those linebacker spots. You have Shavers, who's been playing one-handed for most of the season. Good on him for doing that. I can't imagine that's very easy. Javen Wright, make your jokes now about his eligibility, but he's finally, I think, done after
over.
this year. Playing his best football of his Nebraska career at this point. Watson Trent, it was just a one-year guy out of the portal. Dawson Merritt's kind of that next group up. He's battling some things that Matt Rule sounded, I guess, a little bit positive that they were hoping to get him back for Penn State. But beyond that, they're in a little bit of a similar situation as the offensive line, where there's going to be a ton of changeover at that spot after the season. Bowl practices are going to be huge, I think, for kind of getting guys up to speed. A Christian Jones, who was, a huge recruiting win for Nebraska. Where does he kind of factor in things? Pierce Newberry at that linebacker spot as well played his 4 games in his red shirting. You might see him in a bowl game, in a special teams role as well. And you can kind of roll the jack spot into that as well. I mean, we saw this against UCLA where Dasan McCullough's got the stinger issues. He was out, didn't make the trip. Willis McGahee, redshirting this year. We'll kind of see how that shakes out, and what his long-term plans are there. And you were down to Dylan Rogers, who, had played only a handful of snaps at any position in his Husker career, and goes in there and has to play most of the game at that jack spot. So those two positions, you're going to have to get some things figured out in terms of who can help you. I would not be surprised if those are both spots that you target in the portal for immediate type guys. Nebraska's made a junior college edge offer yesterday to a player in Mississippi. So, same thing. I mean, you're leaning on the veterans, but you're also having to hope that a guy like Dawson Merritt or Jacob Bauer or Christian Jones or somebody like that is ready to slide in and give you some, pretty significant snaps next season.
Yeah, that's a really good one to bring up. I think Merritt is really interesting because he, of course, when he got here, he was recovering from a surgery, took him out of the spring, and I thought really got out of the blocks pretty good, all considered, for having to deal with that. And he's had this little injury you mentioned lately, but he's still above 100 snaps. And that's a player who you are pretty excited about if he has like a full off season. I feel the same way about Newberry. And I think the staff does too. Like he's got such long levers and just the traits that they like. And I could see Newberry, this will be a prediction here, being very much like a Rex Guthrie, like next year, like a redshirt freshman just kind of takes off and gets called on for a lot of snaps. I think he has that within him. And so he's a guy that I've kind of circled, but I think you're right. That's a spot where you probably got to get aggressive in the portal. Sort of like the O-line, and maybe, multiple guys even. And then Christian Jones is of course an interesting guy that you brought up too. So that's a good one. I am for the current season, I am excited, while you hope McCullough gets back, to see what Dylan Rogers can do with whatever time he has. Like, I thought he played pretty solid, all considered, against UCLA. Played 50 snaps after you said, like, hardly playing at all year. I think he had played 15 snaps before that. So that was a nice beginning for him. And he's a guy that I think the staff really appreciates, like, sort of his stick-to-itiveness and what he's made of. So we'll see what he can do.
you ran through kind of an interesting look at just defensive snap counts and the disparity between classes. Was there anybody on that list that you had that when you were going through and looking at numbers, you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that guy played this much this year?
It's a bad answer. No, there wasn't. But no,
You're that dialed in. It didn't
yeah,
need no surprises.
no. It's the reason why my answer is that because we do the snap
Right.
counts every
Yeah.
week, and so I guess I should have came up with one on the fly. What is interesting though to me, Brunt, is that of the 25 guys who had the most snaps this year, 18 can return next season, and I think most of them will. And if you connect it to what Rule said this week, where it's like not only does he feel good about the position they're in to go after people in the portal, but to retain is what he was getting at, and not having to make some of the harder decisions they had last year. Obviously, there's some cases where maybe it's better for both parties if you go your own way. But I think among those 18 who could return, I would bet 15 or 16 at least do. I honestly think that. So they do have a chance to actually develop guys. And so that's why these bowl practices are going to be so huge, because you hope those guys are going to be part of your 26 plans.
That's true. The bye week rolls on. Bye week, but we're not idle. Keep it locked on Husker 24/7 for everything. Leading into next week's matchup with Penn State, Nebraska basketball this weekend as well. We'll be back with another Husker 24/7 Daily on Friday.